What's up, everybody? Episode 24 here. Today's going to be a short one. Had a migraine all day. And frankly, while I've spent a ton of time working, I haven't made a ton of progression. Everything I've done in the last day and a half has just been a ton of welding, prepping of the metal, more welding. And then I also ran into some issues which I will cover here shortly. So what we got going on, we're back on the rear end again today, and we got the axle tubes welded up. Okay, they're looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with some of the welds. Some of the other ones I'm not very happy with. I ran into some argon issues and just weld coverage issues, and I will explain what happened, what I found, and some of the process that I went through trying to diagnose the issue that I was having. But we'll talk about some more of that in a minute. I got this lower bar welded up. So I cut it to length, got it in there, got it welded up. This upper bar here, I got this in. What I ended up doing there is grinding away with a little carbide. So a little 1/8 inch carbide in my Dremel. And then I also use my little belt sander as well. And I ground this down really good, really clean. And I'm pretty happy with how the weld turned out. It adhered really good. I did not have to preheat or post heat or anything like that. That is just some 309L, just straight up burned into the cast iron. And it worked amazing. I mean, no pinging, no noise, no nothing. Welded super easy, super clean. I think my biggest struggle with this area here is that you got diff fluid that seeps through this tube, because this tube is only pressed on, right? So you're going to get fluid that seeps out of this, not to where it even is visual, but like just enough that it's there. And as soon as you start welding, you start noticing that in the weld. Up here, no issues at all. Burned in great. And then I welded both sides here. This side's cut to length, which I may have been in the last video, but I still have to grind this area here for that one. So basically this is the last brace besides the front ones that I'll have to do. But with the tubes welded in and everything, this thing still spins nice and free. No issues there. I definitely think that next time around, this is one of those things where it's like a little foresight, or if I maybe watched 20 other videos, I could have learned this, or read something, I could have learned this or thought about it. And it definitely should have been something I thought about. And any time that you're welding here or welding up here, you're putting forces on that tube, right? Whether you're welding a brace in or not, you're putting some kind of forces on that tube, okay? And what could have happened if I wasn't really careful is I could have distorted this enough to cause this bar to bind up. So what you really should have done is welded the tubes in like I did first. So I did this for the first step. That's correct. But then I should have welded these in and all the braces. Then I should have put the ends on. The ends should always be last. So I should have did all of this fab work here, then put the ends on. And that would have just made it so that I really assured to get the best possible alignment. So I'm still happy with the alignment. The bar still spins, so we're still good there. One thing I did do, and I'll cut it in right now, is I put a level on this bar here and this bar here, and I got 0, 0. And then I tilted it up so that it was 90 degrees, and I did the same thing. I put a level up there and a level over here, and it was 0, 0. So this lower bar is nice and parallel with my axle center line. So that just kind of assures me that these 4-link bars should be in really good alignment still. So, you know, when I did this, you know, obviously I'm measuring from here to here, from here to here, top to bottom. I'm measuring them to make sure that they're as aligned as possible. But seeing that this bar isn't this way at all, and it's nice and parallel with this, that's giving me a good idea that this axle is ready to go nice and straight down the track. So I'm happy that that stuff's all aligned. My 4-link bars are lined up to my axle center line. I'm stoked on that. So I'm really happy with how it's turning out. Like I said, I got one more bar to weld in, and then I'm going to clip in some welding footage after I'm done talking about the argon issue that I ran into. So we'll talk about it. Realistically, I could still try and clean it up some more, but try and get a better image of it. That mess right there. What ended up happening is on the gas lenses that go into the TIG torch, trying to get one out of my my little cabinet here, my little storage spot. These guys here, these are your gas lenses. This is what the argon flows through. This is on the inside of that cup. So if I was to spin that white cup off, you would see this guy here. And as I was welding, it was popping and banging like there was either contaminant in the metal or I was having argon flow issues. Now, I hadn't really experienced any contaminant issues out here. Or I'm sorry, I should say out here on this tube. This tube was really nice and clean. It welded pretty clean in most spots. This tube was giving me some weird issues. Like over here, you can see how kind of hazy it is. There was definitely some contaminants getting pulled up into the weld. But over here, it was like I couldn't weld at all. It was like there was no gas. No matter what I did, I couldn't get it to weld. I'd grind it back down with the carbide, try to go over it again. I bet you I did that half a dozen times. I got so frustrated, I just couldn't figure it out. And so I started taking the cup apart. I started looking at my gas lenses, and I just couldn't visually see what was going on. You know, the screen looked fine. It looked like it wasn't down low enough. It looked like it had gotten, like it was coming up and getting too close to the inside screen. And so when this screen is too close to the inside of that one, you basically lose some of your diameter, because this is meant to flow out into that bigger screen. Well, I couldn't understand why I was getting close, so I tried some different spacers. Still couldn't get it to work right. My stick out, I couldn't stick the tungsten way out like I normally did. Honestly, I just couldn't figure it out. And then I noticed that there was a gap right here where my thumbnail is. So that one's nice and flush. This one was developing a gap. And the one that's in there was at about 1/4 of an inch. So it had pulled out the internal part, the copper part from the cup. It had pulled it out. And it was shrouding the argon flow. So the argon was not flowing out of it properly. I was so frustrated that I didn't notice it before, because honestly what I did is I just took it in my drill press with like a piece of metal and I pressed it back together, kind of like clamp it in a vise. And then next thing you know, I got stick out, I got argon coverage, no issues at all. It's an unfortunate thing. I do run a air-cooled welder at really high amperages sometimes, and I'm terrible for over-tightening my cups. I know that I tightened down that cup too far. I felt like it kept getting loose, which it was because that piece was backing out. So it'd get really hot, expand, back out a little bit. I'd tighten it back down. So it was just like this progression that just happened over time, because I would have random argon issues for months almost. It felt like I just was like randomly lose argon. Even when I was back making the jig, felt the same way. So thankfully I got it fixed. I got some new ones coming. These ones are pretty old, 3-4 years old. So they got some miles on them. I got some replacements coming, thankfully. So that's really about it for the welding on the axle. Again, I'm just not really feeling it today. I hope you guys enjoy the update. And here's some footage of me welding. Thank you. Have a good night.